Hey there, Commanders fans. Welcome back to another news roundup where we break down everything going on with our team. Today, we've got 3 stories that are sparking a ton of conversation among fans and NFL insiders alike. From deep dives into team performance to individual player evaluations, and the game plan to take on one of the toughest challenges of the season. If you're a Washington fan, you're definitely going to stick around because these updates hit on some major points about the present and future of the franchise. So get comfortable because we're going to break down every detail of these stories that are shaping the 2025 season for the Commanders. Stay with us until the end to catch all the details, and don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's kick things off with one of the most concerning stories for Washington fans: Marshon Lattimore's performance. When the Commanders brought in the veteran cornerback from the New Orleans Saints, the expectations were crystal clear. They needed a top-tier corner to anchor the secondary. Lattimore came in with 4 Pro Bowl selections and a reputation as one of the best in the game at his position. But what we're seeing on the field is a far cry from what anyone expected. Not only is Lattimore not playing at a Pro Bowl level, he's become one of the weakest links in Washington's entire defense. The numbers don't lie. According to Pro Football Focus, Lattimore has a grade of 44.0, ranking him 108th out of 113 qualified cornerbacks in the entire NFL. Let me say that again so it sinks in. He's in the bottom 5 at his position, and that's just the stats. When you watch the game tape, it gets even more troubling. For every solid play Lattimore makes, there are 3 where he's making basic mistakes. His coverage technique has shown serious flaws. He's giving up big plays way too often, and penalties have become a recurring issue. Opposing teams have picked up on this and are going after his side of the field. Knowing they've got the upper hand when the ball goes his way, NFL analyst Greg Cosell didn't hold back when talking about Lattimore in a recent chat with Nikki Javala from The Athletic. Cosell came right out and said what a lot of fans have been thinking but didn't want to admit. According to him, Lattimore just isn't the same player he used to be. And the most telling part of his breakdown? He pointed out that the Commanders have had to tweak their defensive scheme just to try and hide Lattimore's limitations. Cosell explained that Washington no longer uses Lattimore as a matchup corner, meaning they don't have him shadow the opposing team's top receiver all over the field like elite corners usually do. Instead, Lattimore stays mostly on the right side, while Trey Amos holds down the left. That's a clear sign the coaching staff doesn't trust him to go one-on-one with the league's best receivers. As Cosell put it, "I'm not sure he's that kind of player right now." This is especially frustrating for the organization because the Commanders gave up significant draft capital to get Lattimore. It was one of GM Adam Peters' biggest offseason moves, a clear signal that the team was trying to win now while Jaden Daniels is still on his rookie deal. But so far, this trade is looking like a massive steal for the Saints, unless Lattimore turns things around in a big way during the second half of the season. Yes, Lattimore did suffer a hamstring injury early on with the team, and that may have impacted his initial performance. But that excuse doesn't hold water anymore. He's had plenty of time to fully recover. Fans who've been watching every Commanders game this season know exactly what we're talking about. Week after week, they've seen Lattimore get picked on and beaten by opposing receivers. Still, Lattimore is staying determined. He's never been the type to fold under pressure, and he's publicly expressed confidence that he can bounce back. For now, the Commanders have no plans to bench him. The organization is going to let the rest of the season play out before making any big decisions about his future. But make no mistake, his status beyond this season is very much up in the air. If Lattimore doesn't show major improvement, the front office will have some tough calls to make this offseason. Is he worth keeping around on his current deal? Should they try to trade him? Or just cut their losses and move on? These are the questions the front office will have to answer if things don't change. For Lattimore, this might be the biggest challenge of his entire NFL career. He's faced adversity before, but never a situation where his core ability as a player was being questioned this openly. He's got to find a way to get back to the form that made him a multi-time Pro Bowler, and he's got to do it fast if he wants to save his reputation and his future in Washington. Next few games will be critical in determining whether Martian Lattimore can bounce back or if his best days in the NFL are already behind him. For a team with championship aspirations, having a number one corner playing like one of the worst in the league just isn't going to cut it. Something's got to give, and soon. Now let's move on to a story that stirred up a lot of debate in the Commanders fan base. We're talking about the predictions and analysis from Nikki Javala, the reporter from The Athletic who covers the team. Turns out, Javala saw Washington's current issues coming long before most people did, and now she's doubling down on her original take as the team gets ready to face the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Before the season started, it was almost impossible not to get swept up in the hype and optimism surrounding the Commanders. And honestly, there were plenty of reasons to be excited. The team had made it all the way to the NFC Championship game in Dan Quinn's first year as head coach. A huge accomplishment considering where the franchise was before he arrived. Plus, GM Adam Peters had been super aggressive in the offseason. Peters pulled off 2 blockbuster trades that shook up the league. He brought in productive veterans who were supposed to help the team win right away. The whole plan was built around taking advantage of the window you get when your quarterback is still on a cheap rookie deal. The logic was simple. Jaden Daniels was playing on a rookie salary. So now was the time to surround him with talent and make a Super Bowl push before his next contract eats up a huge chunk of the cap. But here we are, just 7 games into the season, and that plan hasn't exactly panned out. The Commanders are sitting at 3 wins and 4 losses, and their play on the field has been shaky at best. Injuries have definitely played a role, no doubt about that. But there's something deeper going on here, something that goes beyond just bad luck. Javala saw this coming back in the summer. She voiced concerns about the roster and said something just didn't feel right about the way the team was built and the expectations being set. Of course, fans didn't want to hear that kind of cautious take when everyone was riding high. Javala caught a lot of heat, got slammed on social media, and was accused of being too negative or not understanding what she was watching. But now, with the benefit of hindsight and seeing how the season has unfolded, Javala is asking a tough but necessary question. What if last season's success just masked deeper issues that were always there? She recently wrote that maybe Jaden Daniels' incredible rookie year covered up a lot of the holes that still exist on this roster. And she's got a point. It was exactly 1 year ago that the Commanders, sitting at 7-2, traded for veteran corner Martian Lattimore right before the NFL trade deadline. At the time, it looked like the rebuild was ahead of schedule, and the team shifted into win-now mode. But as we approach this year's trade deadline on November 4th, and as the Commanders struggle to replicate last year's success, Javala's perspective is worth revisiting. Maybe this is exactly where the Commanders have always been as a team. Maybe the extraordinary success of 2024, and especially Jaden Daniels' meteoric rise, just made everything look better than it really was. That's what elite quarterbacks do around the league. They raise the level of everyone around them and make teams look more complete than they actually are. Daniels had a historic rookie season last year. His ability to make plays with both his arm and legs, his maturity beyond his years, and his poise under pressure completely transformed Washington's offense. But this year, Daniels hasn't been playing at that same elite level, and he's missed 3 games due to injury. Without him lifting everyone else up, the team's flaws have been fully exposed. The defense has been especially problematic. They can't generate consistent pressure on opposing quarterbacks. The secondary has given up big plays way too often. The run defense has been hit or miss. And when the offense isn't firing on all cylinders because Daniels is out or not at his best, all those defensive issues get magnified because the team can't stay in games. The Commanders are currently 3-4, and their upcoming schedule doesn't look easy. There's a very real danger that Washington's season could spiral and end up irrelevant. That's definitely not what fans had in mind when the season kicked off. But it might be the reality check this team needs. On its path to long-term success, patience isn't exactly a virtue in the NFL. We live in a world of instant reactions and high-pressure environments. The Commanders were way ahead of schedule in 2024. But let's be real, it was always going to be tough to hit those same heights again this year. Regression is common in the NFL, especially for young teams that overachieve. Javelin saw this coming. She felt the vibes were off, that there were warning signs being ignored in all the excitement. And she thought last season's success had a bit of fool's gold to it, that it wasn't as solid or sustainable as it looked on the surface. So far, she's been spot on with her assessment, even if it's tough to admit. Now it's up to everyone inside the Commanders organization to change that narrative. Dan Quinn and his staff need to find answers. Adam Peters needs to take a hard look at how he built this roster and make the necessary adjustments. And the players need to step up and prove they can compete without relying solely on their quarterback's heroics. The season isn't lost yet. 3-4 isn't a terrible record, and there's still time to right the ship. But the window is closing fast. The next few games will determine whether the Commanders can bounce back and make a playoff push, or if 2025 will go down as a year of regression and reevaluate expectations. What do you think about Javelin's take? Was she right from the start, or do you still believe this team can turn things around? Finally, let's talk about Monday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs and the unexpected player who might just be the key to pulling off a major upset. Washington is heading into one of the toughest matchups of the entire season, trying to beat Patrick Mahomes on his home turf under the bright lights of prime time. Against a team that's won multiple Super Bowls in recent years, the Commanders come into this game as clear underdogs, according to the sportsbooks, and honestly, that makes sense. A 3-4 record doesn't exactly scream confidence, especially when you stack it up against the Chiefs' dominant track record. But this is the NFL, and anything can happen on any given Sunday, or in this case, Monday. And Washington does have a few things working in its favor that could give them a shot. Marcus Mariota will be starting at quarterback since Jaden Daniels is still out with a hamstring injury. Mariota's a seasoned vet who's been in high-pressure situations before, even if he doesn't have the same upside as Daniels. The good news is that Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel are both back at full strength, giving Mariota some legit weapons in the passing game. But here's a strategic key that a lot of analysts are overlooking. The best way to beat Patrick Mahomes isn't by trying to outgun him in a shootout. The best way to beat Mahomes is to keep him off the field. And that's where Bill Krosky-Merritt comes in. The rookie running back who could be the real X factor in this game. Krosky-Merritt had a strong start to the season, even though his production has dipped a bit over the last 2 weeks. But don't let that recent slowdown fool you. The Commanders are still the second-best rushing team in the entire NFL. Washington is averaging 149 rushing yards per game, which is a huge number in today's pass-heavy league. The matchup against the Chiefs' defense is interesting. Kansas City is giving up the 7th most fantasy points to running backs this season, which suggests there are opportunities to exploit in the run game. Even Chiefs defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo has publicly acknowledged Krosky-Merritt's talent. He literally said, "That number 22 who's burst onto the scene is really, really good." That kind of praise from a defensive coordinator like Spagnuolo, who's been around for and seen it all, isn't something to take lightly. If he's impressed, it means the rookie's got something special. The Chiefs know they'll need a specific plan to contain Washington's young back. Now, let's be real about the challenge. Kansas City's run defense has been lights out lately. They're giving up an average of 105 rushing yards per game this season. But over the past few weeks, they've been even better. In fact, They haven't allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back since Week 4 against the Baltimore Ravens. That's a serious streak that shows how well they're playing up front. Just 2 weeks ago, the Chiefs faced the Detroit Lions, one of the best offensive teams in the league, and held their ground game to just 98 yards. That's impressive considering how stacked Detroit is on the offensive line and at running back. So it's not going to be easy for Krosky Merritt and Washington's O-line to get things going. And then there's Chris Jones. All-Pro defensive tackle is one of the most disruptive forces in the entire league. He can blow up plays in the backfield, collapse the pocket, and just generally wreak havoc. Washington's offensive line is going to have to play out of their minds to keep Jones in. Check and open up lanes for Krosky Merritt. But here's the bottom line. The Commanders can't count on their defense to consistently stop Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense. Washington's defense has been way too inconsistent this year. They've struggled to generate pressure. The secondary's been giving up big plays, and overall, they haven't shown they can shut down a top-tier offense when it matters most. So the game plan has to be about controlling the clock. Washington needs to feed Krosky Merritt the ball over and over. They need to run the ball efficiently, convert on third downs, and keep the chains moving. Every minute Washington's offense holds onto the ball is a minute. Mahomes is stuck on the sideline. This is a strategy we've seen work against the Chiefs before. The teams that have beaten Kansas City are usually the ones that dominate time of possession, keep Mahomes off the field, and avoid turning the game into a shootout where the Chiefs thrive. Washington needs to play a physical, grinded-out style of football that wears down the Chiefs' defense and limits the other side's chances. Krosky Merritt needs to have the best game of his young career. He's got to break tackles, pick up yards after contact, and move the chains on those tough third and short situations. The offensive line has to win at the line of scrimmage and create consistent running lanes. And the offensive coordinator has to stay committed to the run game even if it doesn't work perfectly right away. The temptation is always to abandon the run when it's not clicking early and switch to a pass-heavy attack. But against a team like the Chiefs, that's a recipe for disaster. Washington needs to stay patient, trust their identity as a run-first team, and let the ground game set the tone for everything else. I'm not saying it's impossible for Washington to win this game, but they'll need to play almost perfect football to have a real shot. That means no turnovers, clean execution, key moments, winning the time of possession battle, and keeping Mahomes on the bench as much as possible. If the Commanders can do all that, and if Bill Krosky Merritt can deliver a breakout performance, then maybe, just maybe, they can walk out of Kansas City with a shocking win that changes the course of their entire season. And that's a wrap for today's Commanders News Roundup. We covered 3 major stories that are shaping this season: Marshon Lattimore's ongoing struggles and the tough truths analysts are saying about his game, Nikki Jabvala's vindication and her prophetic take on the team's deeper issues, and the critical importance of Bill Krosky Merritt as the X factor in Monday Night Football against the Chiefs. These are tough conversations, but they're necessary for Commanders fans. The season isn't going the way anyone hoped, and there are real questions about roster construction, key player performance, and the overall direction of the team. But there are still reasons to stay hopeful. 3 wins and 4 losses isn't a terrible record, and there's still a lot of football left to play. The game against Kansas City is a massive test. If the Commanders can go into Arrowhead and compete with one of the league's best teams, that would send a strong message about their character and resilience. Even if they don't win, showing they can hang with the Chiefs will be a step in the right direction. Now we want to hear from you. What's your take on Marshon Lattimore's situation? Do you think he can get back to Pro Bowl form, or are his best days behind him? Do you agree with Nikki Jabvala's analysis of the team's underlying issues? And do you believe Bill Krosky Merritt can be the X factor against the Chiefs? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love reading your takes and talking Commanders football. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the latest Commanders news, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Washington and NFL content. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. We bring you analysis, game recaps, and all the big updates on the Commanders. Also, make sure to follow us on social media where we post extra content, run polls, and keep the conversation going with the fan community. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search our name and join the discussion. Remember, the game against the Chiefs is this Monday night. It's going to be a huge challenge for the Commanders, but in the NFL, anything can happen. We'll be back after the game with a full breakdown of everything that went down. So make sure to come back for that. Thanks for hanging out with us for this Commanders News Roundup. We'll see you in the next video with more coverage of the Washington Commanders. Until then, hail to the Commanders!